learn much from that. I have been to the area. Certainly there were a lot of animal mutilations going on at that time in the area, but in my book, Unearthly Disclosure, I have revealed actual alleged locations of alien bases.
Yes.
So, you know, I've been quite specific. There was one in Virginia, for example, one in New Mexico, the Manzano nuclear weapons complex. There's a huge one, maybe two, in the Pacific Ocean.
Underneath the ocean?
Underneath the ocean, yes.
Okay, and just to go back to the Secret Services...
And many other, if I can say, you know, in many other areas as well, in the Caribbean. There are quite a number. In Australia, there are quite a number.
Okay.
And this is not something that can readily be admitted by governments.
Okay. And just to go back to we were talking about MI6 and things like that. You mentioned that you think that a lot of the intelligence with regards to UFOs in the UK is held by GCHQ.
Definitely. Because, you know, GCHQ works hand in glove with America's National Security Agency. And they do share quite a lot of information, and it seems about the UFO situation as well. I have tried to get information from one or two people, but they're absolutely tight-lipped about it.
So do you think, because obviously whenever there's UFO reports, they all go to the MOD, and so do you think there's contact between the MOD and GCHQ?
It would depend. It would depend on the department in the Ministry of Defence.
Right. Okay.
You see, what I've learnt, and I learnt a long time ago from two reliable sources, is that the most sensitive work on UFOs was done by the Provost, the Royal Air Force Provost and Security Services. And they are the equivalent of America's Office of Special Investigations. They deal with counterintelligence, policing, breaches of security and things like that. And they are renowned as being among the most efficient counterintelligence agencies in the world.
Okay.
Provost and Security Services. Right. And as you may know, I got arrested for poking around Rudloe Manor. In Wiltshire, where the headquarters of the Provost and Security Services was located at the time in the 1980s. They've moved now.
Okay. So that sounds like a privately run thing, is it? Or is that...
No.
Right.
It's part of the Royal Air Force.
Right, okay.
But it's the actual lodger unit is buried, or was buried, within what's called the Flying Complaints Flight. I have some interviews with people who were involved in the Provost and Security Services who had top secret clearances, but they could never get near the UFO.
Right.
That was the most restricted.
So you think that particular group has a lot of the knowledge?
They certainly did. I can't tell now if it's been passed on. There are other groups like Naval Intelligence. Nothing, as far as I know, has ever been released by the British government. Maybe something about Operation Mainbrace in the early 1950s, but I think they have a very deep involvement as well. That's my guess. Certainly the United States Naval Intelligence people do.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Lord Clancy in your book, and information which...
Clancarty, yeah.
Oh, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, sorry, it's all right, yes.
He gave information on the Eisenhower meeting.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that, on the 1954, is it Edwards Air Force Base?
Edwards Air Force Base, which was then top secret for top secret aircraft. There was a meeting arranged in February 1954. I don't know any more. I do know some things that happened as a consequence of that. But there was a meeting with Eisenhower and some top officials, including the American head of the Catholic Church, Cardinal McIntyre, I think, and a few other high-ranking people, named who they have been named in one famous letter, which I published in Alien Liaison. I think it definitely did happen. My information was that there was a follow-up arrangement to transfer technology. This was given to me by another source, and a meeting, I don't know if Eisenhower was involved at this particular meeting, but I know that some scientists went out to a certain desert location and were taken out by some CIA guys.
And it's alleged that they demonstrated that their ship could become invisible.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Apparently to Eisenhower's tremendous embarrassment.
Okay. Okay.
And he said that they said they wanted to educate Earth people. They were very concerned about the nuclear build-up and everything. And Eisenhower was quite shocked by this, and he said, "I don't think we're ready for that yet." And in the end, apparently they agreed, and they said, "Well, we're not going to stop being around, you know." And
okay. Okay. And there are many examples in your book of the capabilities of UFOs. For example, entire craft and crew going missing altogether. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. They have the capability of just absorbing aircraft, spacecraft, whatever, on board their giant carriers.
Okay.
With technology. They have the technology.
Okay, and we were talking about the abduction phenomena earlier. You've touched on that. Have you? Do you investigate people who self-claimed abductees? Have you?
Definitely, quite a few people, yes. And I myself have had abduction-type experiences. I will not say I was abducted.
Okay.
But, for example, I have experienced night paralysis, so-called, on probably several hundred occasions. In the 1980s and 1990s, and together with my girlfriend, who was living with me for 10 years or so at that time, she herself had similar experiences at the same time. And I can tell you, it was quite disturbing. I never saw anything, but there was just this tremendous vibration in the solar plexus, accompanied by increasing paralysis, which I always managed to shake off. So only on 2 occasions was that happening in connection with a visual image. And the last one was the most, I would say, disturbing for me. That was only about 3 years ago.
Okay.
When I know what time I went to sleep, which was 5 to 1.
Yeah.
I put my book down. The next thing I knew, I was somewhere else. I was beside a road. I could feel the cold air on my face. I could see the sky. In the sky, lying as I seemed to be lying half like this, half sitting up from the ground level. In the sky was a grey triangle against the black, dark blue sky. Very absolutely looked like it was glued in the sky with white lights all the way along the edges of the triangle. And suddenly I felt that same paralysis feeling that I get when I'm normally conscious or woken up by it, and I fought it again. I fought it. I refused to accept this. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in my room. I looked at the time, and 10 minutes had elapsed. All I can say is that it seemed real to me. It could have been a dream, but it seemed real.
Okay. Yeah. And what about evidence of ETs among us?
Well, I think since the earliest times, some extraterrestrials have been living among us, and either have established bases here or have just been living here, because from what we are told by people claiming contacts, people I have found very honest, people going way back who had contact experiences. I've spoken to people who had contacts with ETs in the 1920s and 1930s. And I'm talking about the more human types here, highly telepathic, more human beings, and they say that we are genetically linked and that there was hybridization, not just one race, but several races were involved and have been for millennia. And we are a hybridized species.
So that links in with people like Zachariah Sitchin's theory. I mean, have you got a view on his particular theory about the Anunnaki?
Well, I haven't read all his books. I have them, and I think he's a scholar. And I think basically, yes, I go along with the fact that they came here a long time ago. Certainly, I mean, I think he says something like, you say
400,000, possibly. I'm not sure.
I mean, there are others that I've spoken to, certainly maybe different races involved, who say that about 14,000 years ago, There was a race of beings